The year is 1905. A paleontologist in the Badlands of South Dakota pulls a massive skull out of the rock. It's enormous, with horns longer than your arm and a frill the size of a dining table. Scientists declare it the most terrifying plant eater that ever lived. They name it Triceratops. They immediately start drawing it, charging it T-Rex, like a prehistoric rhinoceros on steroids. For over a century, that image stuck. Kids' books, movies, museum displays, everyone agreed. Triceratops was the tank of the Cretaceous. Except, almost everything we thought we knew about it was wrong. And that's just the beginning. The deeper you look at the so-called apex predators and monsters of the prehistoric world, the more you realize that a shocking number of them have been completely overhyped. Some were slower than we thought. Some were weaker. Some were pickier eaters than your average house cat. And some were basically just very large, very confused animals. They got lucky for a few million years before reality caught up with them. Let's start with the one that fooled us the longest. For decades, Triceratops was portrayed as a fearless warrior that would lower its three horns and charge straight at T-Rex. Like a living battering ram. The problem? Its neck wasn't built for charging. When researchers finally ran proper biomechanical tests, they discovered the neck vertebrae and muscles were arranged for powerful pushing and twisting, not high speed. Head-on collisions. Charging at full speed would have shattered its own skull. Instead, it probably used those horns more like a deer uses antlers. For display, for pushing contests with rivals, and maybe for some careful stabbing if something got too close. It wasn't a tank. It was a very large, very well-armored bulldozer that preferred to shove rather than sprint. But at least Triceratops had horns. Some of the most famous predators had weapons that were far less impressive than the movies made us believe. Take Spinosaurus, the giant sail-backed dinosaur that Jurassic Park 3 turned into a swimming nightmare. For years, it was sold as the largest carnivorous dinosaur ever. A 50-foot monster that could hunt both on land and in water, taking down anything it wanted. Then, in 2014 and 2020, new fossils completely rewrote the story. The new specimens showed Spinosaurus had ridiculously short hind legs, a flexible tail shaped more like a paddle, and dense bones that made it heavier than expected. It wasn't a fast runner on land. It was built like an enormous slow-moving crocodile. The famous sail on its back probably used more for display and temperature regulation than anything else. And while it could definitely swim, it most likely hunted like a heron, wading in shallow water and snapping up fish rather than chasing down large land prey. The apex predator of the Cretaceous rivers was basically a giant, sail-backed fishing machine that couldn't even run away from danger very quickly. Imagine the most terrifying dinosaur in the movie turning out to be the prehistoric equivalent of a lazy river otter with a fancy sail. If one skull and a few bones can create such a myth, imagine what happens when we have more complete skeletons, but still get the story completely wrong. Enter Megalodon, the 60-foot shark that every ocean documentary claims ruled the ancient seas and ate whales for breakfast. The teeth are real. The bite force calculations are real. But the size, that's where Hollywood took over. Recent studies using better mathematical models and comparisons with modern great white sharks suggest the largest megalodons were probably closer to 50 feet. Not 60 or 70. More importantly, they weren't the hyper-aggressive super predators we imagine. Their teeth show where patterns consistent with biting large, fatty areas rather than crunching through bone. Many scientists now believe Megalodon specialized in ambushing baby whales or targeting the blubber-rich parts of larger ones. More like a giant cookie-cutter shark than a mindless killing machine. When the oceans cooled and whale migration patterns changed, Megalodon couldn't adapt fast enough and disappeared. The ultimate ocean tyrant was actually quite picky about its food, and surprisingly vulnerable to climate shifts. Turns out, even the scariest shark in history had a very specific I-only-eat-baby whales and fat parts diet. But my favorite overhyped predator might be the one that looked the scariest on paper but was probably the most pathetic in real life. Gorgonopsids were the top predators of the Permian period, around 260 million years ago. They had massive skulls, saber-like teeth over a foot long, and bodies built like tanks. Paleontologists originally called them the saber-toothed cats of the Permian. The problem, when researchers finally measured the jaw mechanics properly, they discovered the largest species had a bite force roughly equal to a medium-sized dog. The Those giant saber teeth took up so much room in the skull that there simply wasn't space for powerful jaw muscles. Their hunting strategy had to be extremely precise. Pin the prey down, avoid bone at all costs, and deliver a careful stab to soft tissue. If they did wrong and snapped a tooth, they're in serious trouble. We have multiple fossils showing broken and healed saber teeth. These apex predators were basically walking around with fragile glass knives in their mouths, hoping nothing went wrong during dinner. Imagine being the top predator of your time, but having to hunt like someone trying not to break their own teeth every single time they eat. And then there's the one that might be the most embarrassing of all. Dimetrodon. The sail-backed creature that everyone draws as a fierce predator stalking the early Permian. For over a century, it was portrayed as the dominant carnivore of its time. Turns out, Dimetrodon had a surprisingly weak bite for its size and teeth. Better suited for slicing soft prey than crushing bones. Many researchers now believe it spent a lot of its time wading in shallow water hunting fish and smaller amphibians, rather than chasing down large land animals. The famous sail on its back was probably for temperature regulation and display, not intimidation. In other words, the terror of the Permian was mostly just a big, sail-backed fish-eater that looked scary but wasn't nearly as dominant as we thought. So why do we keep getting these animals so wrong? Because fossils are incomplete. Because dramatic reconstructions sell better than boring ones. And because we love monsters. We want our prehistoric predators to be unstoppable killing machines with perfect bodies and perfect strategies. The truth is usually more interesting. They were specialized, often fragile, heavily dependent on very specific environments and prey, and surprisingly vulnerable when conditions changed. We see this pattern repeat across deep time. The apex predator label gets slapped on animals that were really just really good at one very narrow niche until the world changed and that niche disappeared. Evolution doesn't care about looking cool in documentaries. It cares about survival, and survival often means being good at one specific thing rather than being the best at everything. The next time you see a documentary showing some ancient beast as an invincible apex predator, remember this paleontology is full of humbling lessons. Almost every monster we've reconstructed has turned out to be slower, weaker, pickier, or more vulnerable than we originally believed. And that's exactly what makes the real story so much better than the myth. It reminds us that nature is messy, opportunistic, and rarely follows the neat Hollywood script we want to write for it. The real prehistoric world wasn't an arena of unstoppable super predators. It was a complicated, ever-changing ecosystem full of specialists trying their best with the bodies they had. Many of these animals were ecological specialists that thrived in very specific conditions, only to vanish when even small environmental shifts occurred. Their overhyped status often says more about us and our love for dramatic monsters than about the actual animals that once walked the earth. If you enjoyed learning how many of our favorite prehistoric predators were actually overhyped, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. Which prehistoric animal do you think we've gotten the most wrong? I read every comment, and I love hearing your thoughts. Thanks for watching.